As the sun rose over a cloudy London, the first drops of what would become the city's first distilled whisky in 110 years poured from a still in Battersea on Thursday. The London Distillery Company are the first to be granted a licence in London to produce single malt whisky since Lee Valley and Stratford closed its distillery doors back in the early 1900s. Overlooking the creation of the spirit is head distiller Andrew MacLeod-Smith, who works with a 650-litre copper pot still nicknamed Matilda.
I mean, London obviously has a very rich brewing heritage, but you know, in terms of the distilleries, everything subsided when licensing laws became a bit more rigid down here. The guys up north in Scotland were a little bit more fortunate because they were stuck out in the hills, so the taxman couldn't find them. And then when they finally regulated the industry again, started handing out licenses, all these distillers came out of the woodwork and just said, yeah, we'll take one. So they already had the industry set up.
The distillery, which was co-founded by Darren Rook, has been sourcing and using local ingredients that were used in the whisky production in London over 100 years ago to make the whisky have a distinctive taste. They include barley sourced from Warminster Maltings, Wiltshire, and yeast from Shorebrew in Surrey.
We're looking at heritage, so there'll be a lot more flavour profile there. Basically, you've got more kind of historic umptuousness. I think some of the older spirits that I've tried that, you know, they're not hugely aged, but they're from sort of pre-Second World War. They have more oiliness, more thickness, a bit more kind of vanilla and fruit, pears and apples, and they sit a very different way from single malt is perceived today in some ways.
But it's not just the ingredients and distilling process which dictate the flavour of whisky, claims Smith.
The composition of the spirit is sort of determined by the environment that you create it in. You know, I mean, and this in itself, this used to be an old dairy, a Victorian dairy. So who knows what sort of weird and wonderful bacteria and yeast are living in these walls, and that will give us a distinct spirit, something that they can't be replicated anywhere else.
The liquid coming out of the still at the London Distillery Company is unable to be called whisky yet, as UK law dictates that a minimum of 3 years have to pass for it to be able to be official. After 3 years, it can be sold and will eventually get its orangey-brown colour, as Rook explains.
Whisky, the word whisky comes from eau de vie, the water of life, and it was that idea you're running a water, so it will come off clear. And then when you put it in the cask and it sits, and the wood acts a bit like a sponge, so the spirit absorbs in, it sucks out some of the colour, and it sucks out some of the flavour. And it's kind of this contraction and expansion and contraction of the wood, drawing flavour and colour in and out into the spirit. So over time our spirit will change colour.
The distillery has the capability of filling 100 casks, and the first casks are currently being filled with whisky, which Rook and MacLeod-Smith hope will give the Scottish and Irish a run for their money.